He's my dear brother, friend, and very good comrade. And thank you once again for receiving us. Good morning, the media and distinguished guests. With deep humility and patriotism, I welcome you all to this important moment of reflection, renewal, and reaffirmation of purpose. Today, we gather not only to account for our stewardship so far, but also to cast a shared vision for a safer, stronger, and more resilient Ghana. A more resilient Ghana led by a government that is seeking to modernize, expand, make our armed forces more responsive to our national needs while ensuring a happier military. Let me begin by paying special tribute to the distinguished leadership present here with me, and some are represented. These are the patriots who, through policy, discipline, and duty, ensure that Ghana remains ever ready in a world filled with uncertainties. Our Deputy Minister is on another assignment. He will join us very soon. His energy and commitment to advancing our agenda for modernization and reform has been indispensable. Our Chief Director, Mr. Kate, the administrative engine room of our ministry, ensuring strategic alignment and execution. Chief of the Defense Staff, who is represented ably by Service Chiefs, Lieutenant General William Japan, a Soldiers General, whose guidance and leadership continues to inspire a force of excellence. Our Service Chiefs, Rear Admiral Godwin Livinus Besson of the Navy, steward of our maritime domain and protector of Ghana's blue economy. Air Force is also represented, but his Air Vice Marshal Eric Ajin Frimpong, Sentinel of the Skies and Technological Advancement, and their senior most, the Army, Major General Lawrence Kweku Betanu, Commander of Boots on the Ground, Guardian of our territorial integrity, represented by Brigadier General Pinsel. Chief of Staff, General Headquarters, Air Vice Marshal Joshua Latemensa Lakai, for your coordination and oversight across services. I wonder how you do it. Thank you very much. Our first Sergeant Major, I can't cite him presently here. To all the directors of the Ministry of Defense, senior officers and commanders at all levels of the Ghana Armed Forces, thank you for your tireless dedication behind the scenes. And to every soldier, airman, sailor, and defense civilian staff, from the front lines of our borders to peacekeeping missions abroad, I salute you. Your service is not only a duty, it's a national covenant. I also extend my appreciation to the media for your role in the national dialogue, and to our citizens for your vigilance and your enduring support. Additionally, to the Ministry of Government Communications for instituting the Government Accountability Series, which has provided us this platform to wear our boots from the barracks to interface with the public and account for our stewardship at the presidency, the operational space of our Commander-in-Chief. It is important to emphasize that accountability is the heartbeat of democracy, and today we honor that sacred trust. While at it, I invite you today to see through the eyes of the Ghanaian soldier, to feel the heartbeat of our national security infrastructure to work with us on the silent paths we patrol, not for glory, but for Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, let us journey together into the heart of our defense story so far, safeguarding national security. It is with confidence and pride that I state that to a very large extent, Ghana is safe, stable, peaceful, and ready to experience a golden age under the reset agenda of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. We have kept our nation safe and stable, notwithstanding the irregular transfer of thousands of rounds of military ammunition in 2024 from the Ghana Armed Forces to the National Security Outfit. Ammunitions which have since not been accounted for. The Ghana Armed Forces continues to ensure Ghana's territorial integrity through coordinated land, maritime, and air operations. While the overall internal and external security of Ghana remains stable, we acknowledge that the situation in Boko and Alavanyo and their immediate surroundings remain quite volatile. The Ghana Armed Forces is actively monitoring developments and have put in place robust mechanisms to ensure any potential escalation is swiftly contained in the interest of a peaceful and long-lasting resolution of the conflicts through dialogue. In doing so, we shall always separate crime from traditional matters, enabling us to deal appropriately and legally with criminals who foment trouble in the name of chieftaincy conflicts. Relatedly, let me assure once again that government has decided to take necessary steps to reconstruct the statue of the Zugra traditional area in Boko while investigation into the continues. To address emerging security threats such as and terrorism, as well as other transnational threats, the Ghana Army embarked on a multinational military exercise aimed at enhancing the capacity of participating troops from various countries. The Ghana Army, in collaboration with the United States Army, the Southern Eastern Task Force for Africa, and Special Operations Command Africa, African Lion, exercise African Lion, in May 2025. Exercise African Lion was held in Ghana, Tunisia, Morocco, and Senegal, and Flintlock was held in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. Overall, 94 troops of the Ghana Army participated in the exercises in Côte d'Ivoire, Tunisia, and Morocco. The Ghana Navy continues to play a crucial role in ensuring the safety and security of key national installations. Regular patrols are conducted to safeguard offshore oil and gas facilities, including the Jubilee oil field, Ten oil field, and Sankofa oil field. The patrols have successfully reduced new incursions. The Navy also undertakes riverine patrols to protect vital inland installations such as the Akosombo and Bui Dam to ensure power supply. The riverine patrols have also contributed to a reduction in accidents on various river bodies, minimizing the loss of lives and property, as well as helping traders to engage in their daily commercial activities. Keep in mind that these traders, a profession heavily dominated by women and making a significant contribution to the growth of our economy. The Ghana Navy has also enhanced its protection for the West Africa gas pipeline, guarding against theft and sabotage to ensure the supply of power. Within Ghana's ports, the Navy is currently providing enhanced security through robust anchorage and harbor patrols to facilitate the 24-hour operations of the Ghana Ports and Harbor Authority. Particularly, the Special Squadron has increased its training events in and around the port, both exercises around the anchorage and combat medical care and evacuation from ships in the port. The Ghana Navy has significantly reduced maritime crimes, particularly piracy, through robust patrols, targeted escort duties, and the deployment of armed guards aboard vessels. These efforts have kept our sea lines of communication secure, enhancing maritime economic activities. Additionally, the Navy, as part of Operation Carrot, intensified patrols to enforce compliance with the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development's directives on closed fishing season for industrial and semi-industrial trawling vessels. Ghana's position on the lingering Ghana-Togo maritime boundary dispute was given a boost by conducting patrols along the Ghana-Togo maritime border. The deployment of GNS Achimota within the disputed area succeeded in establishing harmony at the eastern border. Moreover, leadership engagement between the two navies, as well as operational level harmonization, have helped to prevent the escalation of the programs aimed at enhancing capacity of narcotics control personnel. The courses provided foundational military and maritime skills, discipline, basic narcotics interdiction techniques. It further prepared personnel for frontline roles in combating drug trafficking and related transnational crimes. The training further emphasized interagency coordination, intelligence-led operations, and the strategic application of law enforcement tools in disrupting drug trafficking networks. The Ghana Navy, in collaboration with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, facilitated a series of vessel board search and seizure trainings aimed at improving maritime law enforcement and interdiction capabilities. The conduct of these training emphasizes Ghana's foreign policy of good neighborliness and fosters an enabling maritime environment within the Gulf of Guinea. The Ghana Air Force. The Ghana Air Force continues to demonstrate its unwavering commitment to national defense, operational excellence, and regional support. During the first half of the year, Ghana Air Force successfully executed a series of operations and strategic deployments across multiple mission areas, including medevac flights, with its acutely constrained assets across the country. Like the Ghana Army, the Ghana Air Force, and the Ghana Navy, all three services of the Ghana Armed Forces have many unserviceable assets. Armored personnel, carriers, ships and boats, aircrafts, etc. Very, very unserviceable. We therefore appreciate government's decision to retool the Ghana Armed Forces. Ghana Air Force conducted area surveillance missions supporting national security agencies in countering illicit activities along the coastal and border regions in support of Operation Madabiri and Operation Ahojo II. Several reconnaissance missions were conducted along the northern borders of Ghana. Multiple flights were performed for the rotation of troops deployed in Dokochina and Bui in support of Operation Calm Life and Operation Oasis, respectively. Ghana Air Force provided strategic airlift to conduct rotation flights for Ghanaian troops in Galamsey. We are not out of the woods yet as a nation, but there is hope because there is a political will at the very top. We have reviewed the fight against illegal mining and have worked with stakeholders to reform the fight. The National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS, is a product of that review exercise. The recovery of several forest reserves early this year, which our forest guards could not venture, was led by the Ghana Armed Forces. Additionally, the Navy supported land forces in Operation Hall 2 to combat illegal mining along River Ankobra in the western and western north regions. The Navy's riverine operations along the Volta River, like Operation Oasis in Bui, also assisted in reducing the effects of illegal mining on the Black Volta. To strengthen security along Ghana's inland waters and riverine areas, government launched the Blue Water Guard training program in 2025, this year. The Blue Water Guard initiative aims to establish 24-hour monitoring of Ghana's water bodies. It is a strategic intervention to tackle illegal mining activities, protect the environment, and restore Ghana's polluted water resources. The first batch of 453 personnel were trained by the Ghana Navy at the Forward Operating Base at Ezinlimbo. A second batch, made up of 532 personnel, commenced training last month and are scheduled to graduate this week. GOV'T reflect Ghana Navy's commitment to operationalizing governments of ensuring that all mining activities in Ghana leave a positive footprint and not pollute water bodies. Defense infrastructure, the hardware of stability. President John Dramani Mahama believes true defense capability goes beyond weaponry. It is strengthened by robust infrastructure, resilient systems, and strong institutions. In times of peace, like now, our focus must be, and indeed, is on building the institutions, hospitals, roads, and industries that protect our people and promote their well-being. Today, I'm proud to report that in alignment with the Reset Ghana agenda, military infrastructure is receiving attention and investment, turning Ghana's defense footprint into an engine for national development. I mentioned FOB Ezinlimbo. The forward operating bases, I would say, are mini barracks where you find soldiers residing and taking care of particular strategic locations. So, still in talking about defense infrastructure, the President has directed that all forward operating bases currently under construction along strategic stretches of our northern border from Upper West to Upper East and across the Northeast region be captured under the Big Push program to ensure the speedy completion of the projects. Healthcare for heroes, 37 military hospital and beyond. A nation that honors its defenders must invest in their health. It is important to mention that 37 military hospital, which is the crown jewel of our military health system, and the National Emergency Response Center has seen significant improvement, including the new oxygen compressor systems and diagnostic imaging machines to meet 21st century standards. You recall earlier in this administration when I visited 37 military hospital, and towards the weekend, the pressures has reduced so much that if those compressors had not been secured, procured, and fixed, 37 would have run out of supply of oxygen. And 37 doesn't just supply itself, it also provides oxygen, affordable oxygen for the Ghana Ambulance Service. So just think about what the implications would have been. Also, installation of digital patient monitors, a new cold room for pharmaceutical preservation, and high-grade dental sterilizers. Additionally, the contractual bottleneck, which has stalled the 500-bed Afari Military Hospital project, has finally been resolved through painstaking negotiations, paving the way for the cost-effective completion of the project. Moreover, we are upgrading medical reception stations of the Ghana Armed Forces to bring quality health care closer to all corners of the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, I turn to Ghana's Defense-Driven Industrial Renaissance, DHOC. The Defense Industries Holding Company, DHOC Limited, represents a new era in Ghana's development, positioning the armed forces as key drivers of industrial and economic transformation. Originally envisioned by the late President John Evans Atta Mills of blessed memory and being revitalized under President John Dramani Mahama, DHOC now operates with an expanded mandate under the Reset Ghana agenda. I have inaugurated a new, innovative, enterprising, and action-oriented governing board chaired by my capable deputy, Ernest Boja Jemfi. I have tasked them to transform talk and plenty prose into action and verifiable outcomes in order to place the Ghana Armed Forces on the path of sustainable financing. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear. DHOC is laying the foundation for a resilient, industrialized Ghana that can feed itself, empower its people, and thrive in a competitive global landscape. Egypt has successfully done it in North Africa. So can Ghana do it in West Africa. Even before DHOC unleashes its fullest potential, the Ghana Armed Forces is presently partnering with the Ghana Bauxite Company in a 180-kilometer roadworks on the main Awaso-Takoradi corridor, which serves as the primary road for transporting Ghana's bauxite to the Takoradi port, a port protected by the Ghana Armed Forces. The 180-kilometer stretch is deteriorating due to bauxite haulage. When work commences, this roadworks will once again demonstrate the military's engineering expertise and long-standing commitment to supporting national development. In the coming weeks, details of this partnership will be announced, along with a groundbreaking ceremony marking the commencement of work. If I may add, the Ghana Armed Forces, through the Defense Industries Holding Company, will form strategic partnerships to ensure the accelerated execution of the 6-lane Accra-Kumasi Expressway announced by President Mahama in the Ashanti region last week. Who else can Ghanaians trust to execute road construction day and night within a 24-hour economy, if not the Ghana Armed Forces? Towards food sovereignty, as part of Ghana's commitment to food sovereignty in general, and in the case of the Ministry of Defense's sustainable supply of food for our troops, DHOC is working towards large-scale commercial farming projects aligned with the Feed Ghana program initiated by the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces and President of the Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. This effort is in close partnership with key national stakeholders, including the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, the Office of the President for Special Initiatives, the 24-Hour Economy Secretariat, the National Service Authority, and strategic private sector actors. Outcomes will include a broad range of transformative projects within the poultry sector, in addition to mechanized farming of key staples such as maize, soya, and rice. Let me commend the Chief of Defense Staff for embracing this policy and running with it, because my visit to the Army Recruiting School and within the garrisons have revealed some units preparing in earnest to take up the Nkukonketenkete challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, I come to enlistment and recruitment. The Ghana Armed Forces must be a force of excellence, integrity, opportunity, and national integration. Unfortunately, this has not always been the case. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share the story of enlistment fraud with the general public. This story shows us that while we fight non-military perpetrators of enlistment and recruitment fraud, we must also pay attention to their few collaborators, and I must say few collaborators within the Ghana Armed Forces. When I assumed office as Minister of Defense, I instituted an inquiry into the enlistment of would-be officers. 452 Ghana military academics were investigated. Sadly, the out of the investigation and audit conducted by the Ghana Armed Forces into enlistment into the Ghana Military Academy for the regular career 64 and 65 and short service course intake 62 revealed that 210 out of 450, 46% did not meet the eligibility test. Career course 64 who are currently in training, the audit pointed to some 34 trainees who sidestepped one or more of the stages of the enlistment processes. Ladies and gentlemen, it was difficult sending them home since they had been in training for almost 1 year, 12 months. Sending 34 well-trained, energetic youth who had endured military training home in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous West African sub-region with free-floating weapons and ammunitions can have severe consequences. So, they have been directed to fulfill all criteria. That's the 34. However, if they fail to meet these requirements, they will be released from training. Regarding adversely affected persons in regular career course 65 and short service course 62 who are yet to report for training, they have since been directed to discontinue their participation in the enlistment process. This means 115 regular and 75 short service personnel have been cleared to report for training in due course to join the RCC 64 intake, who we basically pardoned 34 of them, but still asked them to right the wrongs. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to report at this stage that the last recruitment exercise for soldiers, non-officers, so the soldiers go to the Army recruit training schools and the various training schools, the officers will go to the Ghana Military Academy. So I'm done with the officer career. I'm now moving to the soldiers. It is important to report, let me repeat, at this stage, that the last recruitment exercise for soldiers, non-officers, was conducted in October 2021. However, the audit has revealed that 2,872 Army potential recruits who successfully completed all required processes, including documentation, medical examinations, and vetting, are yet to undergo training. Meanwhile, my visit to the Army Recruits Training School just last week disclosed the fact that the Army Recruit Training School has not been training recruits over the past 17 months. With the potential capacity for the Army Recruits Training School to train between 900 and 1,500 recruits every 6 months, a maximum of 3,000 every year, we wonder why the past administration allowed the situation of the 2,872 Army potential recruits to crystallize. Knowing that even healthy people die during military training, how can we rely on laboratory tests conducted years ago or over 6 months ago to recruit? How can we rely on body selection and fitness tests conducted years ago to inform recruitment decision now? Additionally, with the passage of time, many have exceeded the age limit. Keep in mind that the military is a profession and a vocation that entreats would-be trainees to abandon all hopes of normal life and imposes the doctrine of struggling is acceptable, dropping is acceptable, bleeding is acceptable, tears are acceptable, pain is acceptable, but quitting is unacceptable. This means once you enter, you can struggle, drop, bleed, shed liters of tears, suffer excruciating and unbearable pain, but in all these, quitting will not be entertained. Considering all these significant factors, it has been decided that a new recruitment process will be conducted. I wish to emphasize that the over 2,000 potential recruits who could not undergo training under the previous administration, even though vacancies existed at the Army Recruit Training School, are strongly encouraged to reapply, provided they still meet all the established criteria. I urge those who will not qualify at this stage not to lose hope. Be of good cheer, because within the 24-hour economy, other employment opportunities are being created. I'm excited to announce that, as has been communicated by the Commander-in-Chief, a comprehensive enlistment and recruitment exercise is to be undertaken with a view to increasing the manpower strength of the Ghana Armed Forces. Altogether, we are enlisting and recruiting 12,000 personnel within the next 3.5 years. Looking at the needs of the Ghana Armed Forces, and in particular the desire to build institutional capacity to support the ongoing drive towards industrialization and food security, future enlistment and recruitment exercises will also be targeting specific qualifications such as agric extension officers, artisans, engineers, biochemists, among others. Let me sound a note of warning that the Ghana Armed Forces has not contracted or delegated any individuals, organizations, or institutions to undertake any recruitment and enlistment exercise on its behalf. Furthermore, the Ministry of Defense seeks to support the Ghana Armed Forces to enhance the capabilities of the recruitment and enlistment portal ahead of the August-September 2025 manpower enhancement drive. The public is therefore advised to avoid fraudsters and scammers who pose as agents of the armed forces to recruit personnel. You engage them at your own risk. Report them to lawful authority. Joining the Ghana Armed Forces under President Mahama will be based solely on merit, not money. We seek to train soldiers who will not be in haste to provide guard duties for unauthorized persons. That era is over. The National Service Emergency Response Readiness Program. In fulfillment of a major promise by President Mahama, the National Service Emergency Response Readiness Program will begin in a few weeks. The basic military and emergency response training is a 6-week orientation training scheduled to run in 2 batches from August to October this year. 10,000 National Service volunteers are expected to kickstart this initiative, with plans to increase the number substantially next year. They are volunteers, it's not compulsory. The areas of training will include basic military orientation, first aid, basic life support, disaster or fire management, nationalism and patriotism, loyalty and discipline, leadership, mentorship, and physical training, among others. The core objective of the program is to equip the National Service personnel with the relevant skills in security, disaster preparedness, and public safety. It must be clear, however, that the training program is optional. Ladies and gentlemen, defense diplomacy, regional collaboration, and strategic outlook. In today's interconnected world, national defense can no longer be confined to borders. Security must be both local and global, tactical and diplomatic, responsive and anticipatory. Ghana understands this reality, and we are acting on it. Our approach to national security is anchored in a clear doctrine: to be secure at home, we must be engaged abroad. And that is exactly what we are committed to while remaining non-aligned. The Sahel crisis, maritime insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea, arms proliferation, and violent extremism and terrorism do not recognize borders, and so no nation can stand alone. The withdrawal of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from ECOWAS, and the formation of the Alliance of Sahel States further weakens ECOWAS. Evidence suggests that over the past 5 years, there have been several successful coups and counter-coups in West Africa. Mali 2022, Mali 2021, Guinea 2021, Burkina Faso January 2022 and September 2022, and Niger 2023. We live in a volatile sub-region. That is why Ghana has prioritized regional defense cooperation, particularly through ECOWAS and joint military platforms. I must add that our Commander-in-Chief's visit to the Sahel region early this year has been reassuring. In a similar vein, under the leadership of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, and in close coordination with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we have deepened bilateral and multilateral military relations while showcasing Ghana's reliability, professionalism, and peace-first posture. Over the past half year, we have hosted high-level defense delegations from the United Kingdom, Brazil, China, Nigeria, the United States of America, France, and Turkey. We have signed new defense cooperation agreements, including intelligence sharing, logistics support, offer exchange programs, and arms control, and participated in strategic African Union and ECOWAS defense forums where Ghana has become a respected voice in shaping regional security frameworks. Leading on the global stage, peacekeeping with honor and excellence. Ghana continues to uphold its legacy as a beacon of international peacekeeping. Our blue helmets serve not just in large numbers, but with unmatched professionalism and honor, and the world has taken notice. Aside from the trailblazing role being played by Major General Anita Asma as UN Force Commander in Syria, Major General Robert Afram is also playing a key role within the UN peacekeeping setup. Let me also add that Squadron Leader Sharon Winswood Sam was recently awarded with the UN Military Gender Advocate of the Year, which further embodies our commitment to inclusivity, protection of vulnerable populations, and gender equity in conflict zones. Squadron Leader Sam, please rise and let us see you. Congratulations once again, Squadron Leader Sam. Good. I spoke about illegal mining. We also have a Lance Corporal who was recently promoted out of 10 by the Chief of Defense Staff in the person of Lance Corporal Tay Chu. Please be upstanding. He resisted bribe from illegal miners, Galamsey operatives. Thank you very much. So we still have very, very good men and women in our country. The Ghana Armed Forces is saturated with such talents. Ladies and gentlemen, I turn my attention to veterans, honoring our living heroes. Our veterans are the living testimonies of Ghana's bravery, resilience, and sacrifice. They are the men and women who once stood at the front lines at home and abroad so that our children could live in peace and our democracy could endure. And today, we must ensure that their service is never forgotten, their voices never silenced, and their dignity never compromised. We believe while we rightly celebrate our veterans' heroism, on various remembrance days, our gratitude must go beyond ceremony. Our gratitude must be seen in action and sustained through policy. To achieve this noble goal, we have launched a robust effort to uplift the welfare of veterans under the umbrella of the Veterans Administration, Ghana, VAG. Pay attention to the comma. 1. A new vibrant governing board has been inaugurated to oversee the administration of veterans. 2. Aggressive recovery of veterans' funds, lands, and assets is ongoing. 3. Veterans will also be prime beneficiaries of the Mahama Cares Health Financing Initiative that seeks to finance diabetes, hypertension, stroke, cancers, and kidney disease care. 4. Also completing the Afari Military Hospital and the Field Hospital in Tamale will take health care closer to veterans across the country than they have ever experienced. They will not have to be traveling from the northern part of the country to 37 Military Hospital in Accra. 5. In addition, dividends from the defense industry holding companies, DHOC, exploits will not only finance serving soldiers, but you hear me, veterans will also have their equitable share. And if the serving officers on the board resist, remind them they will soon be veterans. To forget our veterans is to forget our values. Veterans are not relics of the past. They are pillars of our present and custodians of our history. The challenges we are confronting. Let me first acknowledge with candor the Ministry of Defense, like all critical institutions of state, inherited substantial constraints in January 2025, some of which continue to test our resolve daily. We inherited a staggering institutional debt burden of over 3.7 billion Ghana cedis. Debt that was recently uncovered by the current military high command of over $32 million owed by the Ghana Armed Forces. These legacy debts continue to constrain our ability to invest adequately in critical defense priorities and warfare infrastructure. Alongside this, we are contending with a 17 There are realities that affect operational readiness, troop morale, and the dignity of service. Let me assure you, these are not lamentations. They affirm our determination to resolve these problems, first by acknowledging that they exist, and deciding that never again should the government mismanage the nation's economy to this depressing level. We are fixing the challenges. Our well-designed programs are working. Concluding, I want you to remember 15 key points. Modernization. 1 billion investment to modernize Ghana Armed Forces over 3.5 years. New equipment, advanced tactical vehicles, body armor, and digital communication systems for the Army. Maritime enhancement, enhanced patrol vessels and radar integration for the Navy. Air Force upgrade, new air assets, including UAVs for the Ghana Air Force to operate effectively. Accommodation, construction of 10,000 housing units across all garrisons. Enlistment and recruitment, increasing the manpower strength of the Ghana Armed Forces by 12,000 over the next 3.5 years. Strategic partnerships, strengthening bilateral and multilateral alliances. Defense industrialization, enhancing local production through DHOC. Reset Ghana agenda, aligning defense strategy with national development goals. Security challenges, addressing threats, chieftaincy, galamsey, violent extremism with foresight and readiness. Climate security, preparing for floods, droughts, and food security. Gender inclusion, promoting diversity and inclusion in the armed forces, veterans welfare, ensuring the well-being of veterans, Mahama Cares, more health facilities, and additional funding from DHOC. 14, national service, training 10,000 youth in disaster preparedness and patriotism. Last but not least, 15, unity and progress, emphasizing collective responsibility and unity for Ghana's progress. Ladies and gentlemen, as we stand at the threshold of a new era, the Mahama second coming, and resetting Ghana, let us remember that our strength lies in not just our arms, but in our unity, our resilience, and our unwavering commitment to Ghana's progress. Today, we have outlined a vision for a modernized, industrialized, inclusive defense sector that serves as a beacon of hope and stability in our region. Let us march forward together with the Ghana Armed Forces as our guardians of peace and architects of prosperity. Let us uphold the sacred covenant to protect every Ghanaian and propel our nation towards a safer, stronger, and more prosperous future. As we close this chapter and embark on the next, let us recognize that defense goes beyond the boots, barracks, and borders, because defense affects everything. Security is the seedbed of progress. Let our guiding principles be one Ghana, one destiny. May God bless our beloved homeland, Ghana. Thank you.
All right. To be secure at home, we must engage abroad. That is one of many memorable quotes in the minister's delivery. I could not help but notice the linguistic dexterity that the defense minister exhibited at the introduction of his presentation. I mean, he introduced his men and women present here in language that was of Shakespearean proportions. And I believe that it set the right tone for this engagement. At this juncture, I would invite members of the media present to pose any questions they have for the defense minister. I must indicate that we are hard pressed for time, so we must limit the questions to one each and avoid lengthy preambles. Introduce yourself, the media organization you work for, and then shoot at the minister. With your mouth, I must indicate.
Okay. All right, Minister Abdulhanan Adam, EIB Network. Minister, my question has to do with the presidential jet. We understand, or per reports, it's been grounded. Are there any plans for the country to purchase a new presidential jet? And currently, the president is using a different one. Does it come with a cost to the Ghanaian taxpayer? Minister, my second question has to do with the whole airport, and my colleague Ekobuache in the GH1 newsroom wants me to ask you, the president during the campaign preferred to use the whole airport to be transformed into an aviation academy. He wants to know if there are any plans for the Ghana Armed Forces to take up the place to supplement the activities in Accra and Takoradi. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Shadrach Kodamejare, Metro TV. I want to ask, like the minister ending his speech mentioned that defense is not only about the barracks and then the boots. I want to ask if the likes of, or things like defense tourism has come to his desk, because at least the likes of Exercise Sea Lion has shown us we can get closer to the military, understand their works, and also explore places like the Equator and other areas. Are we looking at defense tourism? And secondly, has to do with the military and then Galamsey fight. Before this government came in power, we heard some military officers saying if the people at the top allow us, we can stop it in 48 hours. How much trust should the Ghanaian put into his administration and his people to ensure that we see the effectiveness of the military in our forest reserves and our water bodies? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. My name is Mark Solagba. I work with Joy FM and Enjoy News. The Minister, I think, hit the nail right on the head that we live in a very volatile, sub-region. The most terrorism-affected country is not 2 continents away. No, it's our next door neighbor, Burkina Faso. And some years ago, in the recent times, we've had security analysts raising the red flags and saying that we're likely to have a spillover of the terror threats into West African coastal, states. Now, with the recent geopolitical shifts in West Africa and then also in the Sahel region, it's likely to affect the terror fight greatly. I want to find out from the Minister, what is Ghana's contingency plan, especially now when it seems the Sahelian countries are losing momentum when it comes to the Accra Initiative, which is supposed to help with the collaboration to help in the fight against terror. My second question has to do with military.
Void of the lengthy preamble of the first.
No. No preambles for the second question. The second one has to do with military brutalities. Now, in 2023, we had a Shaman military brutality. It happened. I know that the Defense and Interior Committee released their report and recommended the prosecution of the officers involved. We've not seen any action regarding that. In January 2025, we had the killing of some persons described as illegal miners who tried to breach the fence, the security fence of a mine in the Ashanti region. I want to know what the status of that investigation is. And then maybe the third.
No, there will be no third question, please.
Okay.
No.
Okay, that's not.
Yes.
Komla Kluche. Can you see? Komla Kluche, I work at Media General. Can we get some more details on the missing ammunitions you said that were moved from the armory of the Ghana Armed Forces, which has not been accounted for? This appears to pose a national security threat. We need some more clarity on that. And if you may, there's been suggestions, most especially on social media, that journalist Kevin Taylor is in the country and being housed and protected in a state facility. Can you speak to this?
All right.
My name is Peloleno from Class Media Group. My first question is, when the minister was talking, he spoke about the 3 months volunteers for the national service personnel who will be trained under the military. I want to find out, after the 3 months, what happens to them, especially those who develop interest in joining the military? And also, secondly, there has been a call on social media that for the fight of Galamsey, that the military or those fighting Galamsey should adopt the shoot-to-kill method. Is the ministry or the Ghana Armed Forces considering this suggestion? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, the microphone is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Some of the questions are linked, so I'll pick them as we move along. Let me start with the National Service training. We expect that within 6 weeks, the training should be over. And I must, even though it's voluntary, I must encourage as many National Service personnel as possible to participate. Why do I say so? Welcome. Why do I say so? Basic life support. There are many people who suffer avoidable deaths. If there was somebody who is skilled in providing basic life support, the person could have been saved. Understand? Just clearing the airway. If there is something choking the person, you clear it from there and all that. But unfortunately, our curriculum doesn't emphasize that in our schools. And this is something that we need to take up and emphasize in our schools. So all the opportunities that you missed, from primary school all the way to the university, the opportunity is here under President Mahama for you to fill in the gap. 6 weeks and you are done. So we expect that as many of them as possible will take advantage of it. The question about their fate, that is those who would want to join the Ghana Armed Forces. I stood here and said recruitment enlistments are going to be based on merit. That is what it is. So whatever question that comes to mind, frame it around merit-based recruitment and enlistment, and you will have an answer. What do I mean? Can you imagine two people who have completed their national service? One participated in a 6-week training with the Ghana Armed Forces. The other did not. And then you decide, both of you decide that you would want to enlist. Who is more likely to be able to endure the few kilometers that you may have to run to prove yourself as fit to those who are enlisting? Most likely is going to be the one who participated in that training, because fitness test is part of it. By even associating with them for 6 weeks, it will diminish significantly even the kind of maybe fear or anxiety that you have when you encounter the uniform. So that is an advantage that they didn't miss. Even if you don't want to join the Ghana Armed Forces, for the sake of your family, for the sake of your friends, for the sake of your church members, because people sometimes collapse at church, and then announcement is made, we need a doctor. But basic life support, everybody can be trained to offer that kind of assistance to someone who is suffering. Then I moved to the whole airport and aircraft acquisition, all these put together. I must say that the whole airport is even over and above what the Air Force alone wants to do, because there is a private sector player who is also very, very much interested. So that is also being looked at seriously. Not just that, also Afina too. I have a request on my letter where another entity has also written to seek some level of collaboration with the Ghana Air Force. I met them last week, Friday, and then there's a third one about even the use of Air Force hangars and other facilities. And so when we talk about the Defense Industries Holding Company, these are some of the things that we are looking at. To leverage the assets of the Ghana Armed Forces, bring in the private sector so that together we can form a consortium of the willing to ensure that we optimize the use of these assets of the Ghana Air Force, which belongs to the state, and whatever dividends that will accrue to the Ghana Air Force, remember, it will in a way also reduce a bit of the capital injection that a central government makes in the long run. Yes, aircraft and acquisition and all. As I said, the three services, Army, Navy, Air Force, all have very, very constrained assets. And we have made a very elaborate presentation to the National Security Council. And trust the Ghana Armed Forces with their precision. They divided it into the very immediate requirements and then the ones that we can wait a bit on. The very immediate requirements came to $1 billion. Fortunately, His Excellency the President committed to it and has begun taking steps to ensure that we satisfy the Ghana Army, the Ghana Navy, and the Ghana Air Force. I guess the aspect about aircraft acquisition became popular because I was asked a question in Parliament by an MPP member of Parliament to explain where the Falcon was when the Vice President was returning to Ghana. Perhaps the honorable member felt maybe the Falcon was available, but government decided to be ostentatious. That was not the case. President Mohammed's government engages in austerity, and so there was no way, if the Falcon was available, the Vice President was going to come in with an alternate aircraft. So I had to explain. And even there, in trying to explain, I limited my answer to about just 2 or 3 paragraphs. But subsequent questions were said that I had to give the fullest details of what the state of the aircraft is. It is sad to note that for some time now, whenever the aircraft goes for either maintenance, repair, or overhaul, the date that is scheduled to return to Ghana keeps extending. It's extended for 2 months before, for 2.5 months before. And in this case, as we speak, the aircraft is still not in. We've been given a date, but I don't want to put that date out because I've been given too many dates. Air Force. You've given me too many dates which did not materialize. So I don't want to put the date out. But we are hoping that this date that has been given, we will see the Falcon here in Ghana. However, it doesn't take away the fact that the presidential jet is sick. You heard the various multiple corrosion that I listed. I don't want to repeat it. The truth is that it is heavily corroded, and this is not the Air Force itself saying it. These are third independent parties putting out this when it was sent away. That does not in any way justify hiring or renting of luxurious aircrafts. Persistently, no way. I don't want to mention any former president's name, and I don't even know whether at that particular time whether the aircraft was in this state. So be rest assured that hopefully when we are considering the air assets of the Air Force, when we are considering the assets of the Ghana Navy, when we are considering the assets of the Ghana Army, all these things will be considered and the right decisions taken. But for now, we are focused on restoring what we have to serviceable state so that we can make do with it. Let me also touch on the aspect of defense tourism. And as you heard, I mentioned several joint military exercises, joint exercises by the Air Force, Army, Navy with different countries. And I was at Ikempiski to open the SITAF one. If you counted the number of senior officers, generals who attended that program, you can clearly measure the forex that came in. Recently, there was one at Boamah by the Navy. That was also an exhibition. That was the day when we went also to inaugurate the Gold Board Task Force. If you counted the number of people who also came in, that also is defense tourism. The more we host some of these programs, the better it is, the better we expose our systems also to others who develop interest and the likeness to want to help us even the more. Our 37 military hospital is here. Simple air compressor was not working until I went there and we intervened immediately. Otherwise, oxygen flow was going to be lacking. This can link defense tourism to health tourism because some of the health professionals there are also military officers. So we need to keep this at the back of our mind. Let me touch on Sahel. I want to say that President Mahama's visit to the 3 AES countries was a game changer. He went to Burkina, Mali, and Niger. I have since been to Burkina, and when I say it was a game changer, I mean exactly what I'm talking about. Because the 3 AES countries had lost trust and confidence in ECOWAS. And so ECOWAS, West Africa itself, was yearning for that leader who could speak to the 3 AES countries, the leaders, for them to trust him or her and listen. Fortunately, with Ghanaians giving President Mahama a resounding victory, he became president and embarked on that game-changing trip. It is helping. Exchange of information, because note that if the terrorists overcome the system in Burkina Faso, Ghana becomes the next target. And that is what makes managing the situation in Boko and its environs very, very important, because it will be one of the entry points. And that is why I spoke about the forward operating bases that almost are enveloping the northern borders of the country. And that's why we are committed to completing them. In terms of tactical operations, deployment, and all that, you don't expect me to talk about those ones. Let me touch on missing ammunitions. I must say that, yes, it is not every detail that I can provide at this stage. But the fact that it's taking this long to capture it in this minute detail should tell you there must be a reason. If you go back to the President's State of the Nation address 2025, he hinted at it. This is the next phase. But the reality is that to date, those ammunitions have not been accounted for. How the Ghana Armed Forces could transfer ammunitions to national security that doesn't have a fighting force in 2024 is a question that will definitely have to be answered. The Ghana Armed Forces has passed it on to the National Security Secretariat for the National Security Secretariat to investigate it, since they were the recipients of the ammunitions. But what we are doing is, under our watch, under our watchful eyes, any such incidents will not be dealt with like the way it was handled in the past. So whilst we have encircled this and handed it over to national security for national security to handle, whatever will fall within our domain from January onwards, trust that we will deal with it the way the military knows best. Kevin Taylor in the country Unfortunately, I'm not an immigration officer, and so I mean, how do you expect? I mean, I'm not an immigration officer. I mean, for those who are interested in that, let me advise: the Freedom of Information Act. Take necessary steps. Find out from immigration, unless the person did not come through lawful borders. So some of these things causing the national discourse. Ashanti region military brutalities and other military brutalities. Take it from me and take it from the Mahama administration. We will always treat crime as crime. We will not shield anyone. There is a report that has come out of the investigation that took place there. The outcome of the investigation is clear. Do I want to speak to it at this stage? No. However, subsequent actions will let everyone know what the implications of that particular investigation is. And then last but not least, is to assure you that as much as possible our doors are always open. We are ready to serve you.
Honorable Minister, well, I'll make an exception for you, Patrick, but after you, we'll draw down the curtains on today's program. Yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable. My name is Patrick Asford Boyd, Radio Gold. Honorable, just want to find out, we have seen a lot of private development on known military lands. Do you have any briefing on the conditions under which these developments happen, and what are you doing to ensure military lands are protected? Then also, secondly, I heard you in an interview how the outcome will be. Now you have heard also about what people are saying concerning the Akwetia. Are we going to deploy military this time around so that to ensure total peace during the Etiwa by-election? Thank you.
Akwetia.
Sorry, Akwetia by-election. Thank you.
Your attitude. Yeah.
Honorable Hoyade, Edenyamiase. Me pacho brutalities na odika wachi mu de but yesi police for the hu ayonkofa we ye no montem yesi police is our friend military for no money yen to sing because do before complain no eto da bia na ha dwen nyina hi de say wo shekamo na ekofa wo ba ye no sa interdiction bia ni wo betimi di nipa ne nkwa ababak enti going forward mo wan hye bia mo de be ma ye nuan masrafo ne say yen de ya so no den wo ti mi hye kambo nipa do be hye enti wo hia na de na wo be ya nipa no be wo na asundwe me nkofa wo mba e na boko wo so crime no mo be separate from custom money police for be collabo na ma cheche mkrofo be die wu na samo be ne say because nipa ewu oboko doso a yanchi wo bia wo ho mesira mo do before complain am to mo bokaka
that's right. Honorable Minister.
Yeah. Military lands. Military lands. Yes, I've seen those developments. And there have been complaints about some of those developments. I want us to situate those complaints within the context of cost effectiveness. There are PPPs. Does the government of Ghana endorse PPPs? Yes, government of Ghana endorses PPPs. However, PPPs must be beneficial to the partners. If it becomes a parasitic relationship, then the PPP is not of benefit to the Ghana Armed Forces. Again, there are also some strategic assets that an institution such as the Ghana Armed Forces may never want to give away. I'll give an example. There is a story in economics about how no matter how rich a Saudi prince is, the Mona Lisa will never be sold to the person, no matter what you are offering. So there are certain things that the Ghana Armed Forces should never give away. However, as I mentioned, Ghana Armed Forces lacks 17,000 housing units. And obviously, these deficits were not being addressed. In fact, in my rounds last week in Tema, near the Biekro barracks, I found a Senate housing unit that is almost 2 decades. One has just got into the plastering stage with pipes, the green pipes in there. Another just block works up to the point and roofed. Almost 2 decades sitting in the bush. Some of these facilities are scattered across the country. So if government was not ready and willing to complete this, and let's say a private person came in and said, Ghana Armed Forces, you have land. The land is valued as this. And that is where the problem is. Who determines the value of the land? You have an institution in the country, the Lands Commission, the land valuation, that should determine the value. Because if we are able to know the actual value, then we can get more from these land swaps. Without knowing the actual value, you cannot know whether you are having more, but trust that the private person will definitely not give you more. And so, what have we done? We have said, let the various investigations on lands, not just the Ghana Armed Forces lands, that are ongoing, continue. And at Cabinet, we have discussed it. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has even extended the period because he indicated the people needed more time. We are waiting for outcome. When they bring their report and the recommendations, it says that for a parcel of land A, it was valued at, let's say, 2 million Ghana cedis or $2 million. But its real value should have been 4 million. It means that we go back to the drawing table and trust that I will lead the Ghana Armed Forces to go back to the drawing table on those ones. Then, on military deployment, so that for your bro, if we come, hey, if we don't come, hey. We didn't come to Ablekuma North. Then at Ablekuma North, a journalist asked me like 5 times, Honorable, do you think you should have allow the military to come to Ablekuma North? But I answered, no, 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 no. But not that the military was completely paralyzed from coming to Ablekuma North. The military will only participate in such activities when they are called upon by the Ghana Police Service. Because elections is a civil activity. Unless it's very, very crucial, you don't need the presence of the military. So let's not create an impression. We are lucky we have a President Mahama. Don't forget, once upon a time, military descended on even parliamentarians in the chamber of parliament. So if we continue to crave military should come to police stations, tomorrow, it may not be 8 people being killed like it happened in 2020. It may be more. Let's rather encourage the Ghana Police Service to deploy the people who can get the job done. And we believe that they have special units within the Ghana Police Service, and such people can get the job done. However, at any point in time, notwithstanding serviceable state, notwithstanding corroded in parts assets, if we are called in, we will deploy, because we are in strategic locations. But let that not be the norm. Let that be the exception. Will the military be in Akwatia? It depends. I can't say yes, I can't say no. It depends. Could the military have been at Ablekuma North? It depends. If the police requested, the military could have been there. In this case, it was not requested. And let me add that when I visited Ablekuma North, the Methodist polling station, with my brother, the Minister for Interior and National Security, with little effort, I was able to drive people away from the inner perimeter of the polling station. And you know, the people who gave me the hell, the tough time, the toughest time, in terms of trying to move them away from where the polling officers were. Can you guess? Sorry? Yes. So please, let's not be too quick to be inviting the military. But at any point in time where the services of the military is needed, you can trust that the Ghana Armed Forces will never disappoint. That is the reason why when they go for training, they abandon all hopes of normal life. Now, I come to Titi. Say, Sunday Baya, Yane, Anonkofano, a soldier for, a shroud for any civilians, Nonkofano, a be Koso, a wano, Mijitum. Na we so kahuntina bibi te say even national service program ikrampo ye eboa ema yene omonte ay barracks no anonkofa no emu epi ebi nso military omo punish omonkrofo ne pa o fi say almost every punishment bi a ekoso wo ho bia no ebefa manim omo ye wi a ebefa ho. I mean, Ubehu say obi ni atene rank so obi na omo atene salary ebi ase obi ni aye ni say omo ye the only thing they say in do stage ebi a omo de ba eba beto edwa enuntina ya monte no, but otherwise eba, I mean, me hamani nka just last week in kwa me can be 2 of such way, and the good thing is say very very fair process. Even start crumple maybe say nipa na everybody tie wasem no. Do you agree? BB eka wo ho. And I think it's something that our courts should learn, because assuming say be Chief Justice judge be say ontena wasem so. In the case of the armed forces, who appear, they will ask you, say, do you agree, say, I say, Nipan, who will be a standard that they are Makai or Muin. And I think something that we should learn from them. They do it. But I will say, Yama and Yonkofano, Imuyade, Imu, Ipi. Yabehe, na, yaye, Enokre, Boko. If you be October last year, the rival chief no mwa koshe hono nipa 104 ana omahwe omonkwa 104 oha ene nan ana omo ahwe omonkwa na anything na aban any abrese crime there yebe ti crime afi chieftaincy ahimbe insem ne hono if you say ebia Ghana ha baby apart from ebia boko wale area mu ho sabio obi ehu se obi da baby a yakunu gunshot onka say chieftaincy meboa. But over there, the moment you see something like that, Obeka say chieftaincy. You understand? But for all you know, who come deeper, maybe not Enesa. So we need to put all this together. And I'll give you a typical example. Mekai, yeah, pathology I lecturer or chair DB forensics. Or say case be of dead body be a that I law requirement na car faso. So everybody will think that a road traffic accident maybe and I can't born na car na faso. Inti normally come can say autopsy crumple the here I postmortem. Postmortem no. Na I body no akoman him. There was no heart in the body na cars afaso no. So assuming you just assume say already a road traffic accident and a car afaso. You wouldn't have known say akoman him, so it could be even ritual murder could be a possibility. So yes, because of the things going on in the enclave in Intino, the suspicion is strong to associate the chieftaincy conflict. But also, as for the investigators, they normally cast their nets very wide. And Yaye review, aye, one of the key things are so, and they say, Uchi in Crofono, na Udomu Kujina as a Nibia, Ewa, and Chibia near Jao, Munti, and yes, I'm in Chencrofo. A police for no, Omuchi in Crofo, but Omo de Qua near Jao. And say, Naye can say, Uchi Ubi. Say oye ehani onuna owo left and owo right and owo ehifon. So long as say obechi say oye crime boni no ochina crime de ebetumi ahope a jurisdiction intino Europe jurisdiction foforo na say nipa no wakwa ko face emra no senia emra etie nia eyemede bebre about two things. One, Galamsey and Debia Meka may need interest or concession BM. Minister for Interior and National Security, Muntaka, only interest or concession BM. President Mahama, Commander in Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, only interest or concession BM. About security, Yade Eko Galamsey, say Commander in Chief, Interior. Any defense. You understand? Be rest assured, we've done a review of the Galamsey fight. That is why we put in place the NIMOS, National Anti-Illegal Mining Operation Secretariat. We are doing few things. Very soon you will see added momentum in the fight, and it will not matter whose horse is God. So be rest assured. Madam Asif.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for that comprehensive briefing and answer session. I think that time is fast spent, so we'll call it a day at this point. We'll see you again on Wednesday when the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources takes his turn to account for his stewardship over the last 6 months. Until then, goodbye to all of you.